So good evening everyone. Before we go on with our new lesson, so let us sorry. So let us pray first. So who would like to lead the prayer? So okay, thank you. So class monitor, please check the attendance. Yes, thank you. So I am Almira Villaluz. I am your teacher, English teacher for today, and you can call me Teacher Myra. So, as we begin, I want you to say English is fun. So, say it with me. English is fun. So, great job. So, now let me share. So, now let me share my screen for you to follow or my discussion. Wait lang po. Let me share my screen. Wait lang po. Ayan. So, kikita na po ba?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
So our topic for today is all about modal verbs. So, so after the study, the students will know the following. So you will identify modal verbs and use it in the sentences. The second one is address different societal problems by writing ideas using modal verbs. And the last one is the students will differentiate between the modals used for possibility, obligation, and necessity by identifying sentence types of modals and language around them. So these are the objectives. So next is, so what did you observe about the sentences and the underlined words? So the underlined words are can, may, and must. Who can say what are the underlined words? So yes,
Oh,
correct. These are examples of modal verbs. So do you have any idea what modal verbs is? And af- so after we go on our lesson, you will know an idea about our lesson or the modal verbs. So now, after we proceed on our lesson, please answer the following questions. So choose the correct modal to complete each sentence. Write the letter of your answer on a separate sheet of paper, and I will give you 5 minutes to answer the following question. So it is 1 to 5, 1 to 5, yan. And after 5 minutes, so let's check your answer. So I will read the question, and you can give your answers. So number one, Annalisa Blank turned 16 this year and plans to have a simple party. So letter A can, letter B may, letter C must, letter D will. So what is your answer, class? Yes, correct. It's letter D. Number two, you blank study hard to pass the test and make it to the top. So the correct answer is should. Yes, correct. And number three, so let's make it fast. So number three, the answer is letter A, correct. Number four, letter D, and the number five, last number is letter D.
D.
So thank you guys. So now let's see how modal verbs is used and in the above slide and why it is used. So Nakakasunod po ba?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So, the next is, what are the facts about modal verbs? So, so these are the facts about modal verbs. So, the first one is, the modal verbs agree with everything. So, you can take any one of the modal verbs and you can use any subject and it's not gonna change. For example, I talk and Diane talks. So the first one is I talk, second one is Diane talks. So talk. So any subject and any sentence is going to take the modal verbs the same. So like I can do it, she can do it, they can do it, you can do it, and we can do it. So the second one, facts about modal verbs are, they don't have a to forms or infinitive. So you can't use to may or to should or even I want to should because it is considered as wrong or ungrammatical. So the now next one is, it indicates modality. So it establishes conditions or express conditions like the ability, permission, possibility, and etc. So the last one is, modal verbs do not change their form according to tense. So they got no past and future tense. For example, must. So the must has no past and future form. So it's just stay the same. So next is, what is modal verbs? So modal verbs are auxiliary or helping verbs which modify or change the meaning of the main verbs. So modal verbs is helping verbs to express possibility, ability, duty, permission, or advisability. And it is using together with main verbs. So you use modal verbs in giving advice or suggestion, in making requests, or in giving predictions and prohibitions. So these are the list of modal verbs. So who can read the list of modal verbs? Sorry, I can't see the raise. The raise. Kasi yung nag-raise ng hand. Ano? Ako na lang babasa. So the first one is can, could, may, might, will, would, shall, should, ought to, and must. So these all can be called modals. So these are the modal verbs and the usage. So these are the examples of modal verbs on how to use with an example sentence. So the first modal verb is should. So you can use should in saying what's right or correct. Excuse me. So, for example, we should solve this problem. He is saying right or correct. So, next is you can use should in possibility. So, fees should decrease next year. It is possible to dec- the fees increase next year. And next is the modal verbs can. So, how to use can? So, you can use can in the for ability and possibility or possibility. So, for example, they can control their own work. So, this is their ability to control their own work, and it is possible to control their own work. You can use can also in impossibility. We can fix it. Next is asking for permission. Can I bring it here? Or can I bring here? Next is request. Can you help me? Yan. So next is could. So you can use modal verbs could and permission, request, possibility, future, and ability. Next is may. You can use the modal verbs may in asking for permission and giving a possibility. Next is might. You can use might in possibility. Next is ought to. You can use the modal verbs ought to in saying what's right or or correct. The next is shall. So you can use the modal verb shall for to offer suggestion and permission. So the next is will. You can use will in making a decision, offer, or offering, and for to promise. Yan. So, naintindihan po ba, class? Okay,
Yes,
good.
ma'am.
Ma'am.
Now that we are done learning about modal verbs, I hope you learn a lot from our lesson. So before we proceed on our activity, do you have any questions or clarifications?
No, ma'am. None, ma'am.
So
And
if none, let's proceed to your activity. So this is your activity. So this is your assessment one. Pick it right. The direction is determine the function of the underlined modal verbs as used in the sentences. So I will give you 5 minutes to answer the following questions. If you are done, send it to my personal account or in my messenger for me to check it. And after working your activity or your assessment one, and this is your homework. So what can I do? So look at the table below, basing from the meaning of the modal in column A. Write the appropriate modal verb for column B and its sample sentence in column C. Write your answer on a separate sheet of paper. So I have examples here. Example is these are there are three columns: the meaning, the modal, and the example. So example is the ability. Your modal is can, and the example is I can swim. So yeah, and this is your basis for you to finish or to work your homework. This is your basis to work the 1 to 8, meaning you can provide the modal and the example sentence. Yan. So, that's all. Wait. I-stop lang natin yung ating share. Ayan. So, thank you guys. Hope you learned something. And for your homework, we can check it on our next meeting. Thank you guys. God bless.
thank you, ma'am.
Congrats.